Hey y'all, how's it going? And welcome back to another segment of the Reads Day, more specifically, HalloWeek Reads. Initially, I was going to try and read the book for Goosebumps because I saw that the movie had Jack Black in it, and Jack Black is always just a slam dunk. But then I was thinking to myself, there are a lot of Goosebumps books. I don't know which one the movie is actually based on. And then they did like a weird switcheroo thing where they made their own Goosebumps story when they wrote the script for the Goosebumps movie. And then they just decided to make a book that was based on the movie. I never really love when that happens because in my opinion, I'm like, just give me the screenplay. It's gonna take me a lot less time. So I decided to look for something along those similar lines, but wasn't exactly the same thing. And that is when I stumbled upon a Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. I had no idea what to anticipate from this book. I had literally never heard about it in my life, and the only reason why I found it was because I found a Netflix special where they based the movie off of the book. So without further ado, let's talk about A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. All right, read the first 3 chapters. Now before you all come for me when I start saying things about this book, I understand that it is meant for children. I understand it is meant for older elementary school, beginning middle school children. I get it. I understand this book was not made for me. However, okay, first things first, I think that I actually enjoyed the prologue more than the actual chapters. So I ended up reading more like 4 chapters because one of them was a prologue, and the prologue was in 3rd person. But the rest of the book appears to be in 1st person. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't love 1st person. I was really captivated by how they did such a good job with 3rd person. And I was a little disappointed that they didn't continue that on. They very much are making it, obviously, in the main character's perspective. The main character being a middle school girl who's kind of weird. I'm laughing because I was that weird girl in middle school, okay? So maybe this book is just hitting a little too close to home of the way that I acted when I was in middle school, and it's taking me to dark places. I do think that a lot of the dialogue is corny, but I know for a fact that 12-year-old Jasmine would 100% resonate with the main character, feeling like she's not cool, she's gotta impress the middle school boy. Okay, let's talk about this middle school boy for a second here too. She said some questionable things about him. And when I mean questionable, I mean like racially appropriate questionable. Okay, so the guy that she is like in love with, right? Because when you're in middle school and you start getting your hormones gathering through your system, you're like, oh my gosh, I am going to love this person forever, and you obsess over them. You get it. But this guy that she really likes is from Guatemala. He is Guatemalan. And she talks about how in Spanish class, he was like so dreamy, and like she loved that he was I think she really loves the fact that he is culturally diverse. And so she's very taken by this Latino boy. And what's weird, this is the thing that was weird to me, where I was like, I don't think that's what people do in real life. So she is like obsessed with him, right? And they were in the same Spanish class. She overhears him talking to this girl that's like her bully. And this bully invites this boy that the main character really loves to a Halloween party. And he answers, bien. Here's the thing, it says in the story that he moved to America when he was 2. I don't think that I don't want to assume that he would be laying on the fact that he was Guatemalan at school and answering only in Spanish to people that speak English. And that's not to say it's wrong that he is speaking in... She mentioned in his native tongue. When I read that, I died. I don't know, it was just kind of weird. Where I was like, all right, Joe, this is Joe here. Hello, Joe. Do you think that middle school boys that immigrate to the United States can only speak Spanish? That's my question. That's what I'm like wondering. I know that he speaks more than Spanish. I know that in the book it says he also speaks English perfectly fine because obviously he grew up in the United States. I gotta read this line, guys. I gotta read it. Hang on. Shortly after that, Victor was removed from Spanish class and placed into the advanced Spanish class since he knew the language better than the teacher did. I thought it was really unfair, and I told Mrs. Bowen that yanking Victor out of our class was discrimination against Guatemala. I'm gonna show you how she like spells it so that she can pronounce it right. I don't know how to feel about that representation of young white women being extremely just like overwhelmed and enamored by someone who is also not white. It's strange. Mrs. Bowen gave me detention for disrupting class and spreading misinformation. Third chapter comes along and I'm gonna go right out and say it. Mom's toxic. Mom is hella toxic. You wouldn't think that from like reading this as like a kid or even a teenager, but now as an adult reading this, Mom's hella toxic. She literally threw her daughter under the bus so that she could be in good graces with her boss. Toxic. And I know that that is the way that the story needs to go in order for the plot to unravel, yada yada yada. But come on, people, we gotta come up with better ways to do that. I will say though, I think that the prologue immediately caught my interest. The best part about this story so far is the scene without the main character in it. I don't know if I can root for this main character. She's a little silly, has a lot to learn, a little immature, but maybe she can do some growing. I really, truly hope she does. I will get back to you third of the way through the book, and I truly do hope, I hope that it gets better. And I really hope that we actually hear more from Victor rather than Gracias and Bien. That'd be cool. I want to learn more about him and not just the fact that he's Hispanic. You could have said he was Hispanic without laying it on so thick. Hi there. It has been about a month since I checked out this book. You guys know I'm very slow at reading books, so I am in the parking lot of my library. I know that I mentioned this in the Carrie video. Please go support your local library. Okay, so for this guy, once I got to a third of the way through, quite a few different characters have been introduced, kind of moving the plot a little bit along. One of the main ones being Liz. Liz is a older teenager, so I would say like 15, 16 years old, whereas the main character is still like in 8th grade, middle school. And speaking of stereotypes, I feel like this book is full of stereotypes. So like that's very much a very like classic basis of this story. And I get that it's for younger kids. I don't know if it's the best decision to put all of these stereotypes in like a younger kid's book, but I understand that that's how kids sometimes see the world, which is another reason why it's important to not have books like that, but that's just a personal take for me. So she meets this character and she is like the classic like blue-haired girl that everyone is afraid of. I don't know why, but like whenever a woman like dyes her hair blue, something happens to like their brain. I don't know if it's the dye or like just like the attitude when you see yourself in the mirror, but like blue-haired girls, you better watch out for them. And I understand that I literally was just ranting about stereotypes and saying not all stereotypes are true. This one is. This one 100% is, and we all know it. So I think that the main character is becoming a little bit more likable already. She definitely had a save the cat moment, which I found pretty interesting. Was it a little on the nose? Yes, but it also was extremely helpful. So I'm not complaining about it. I actually think that it developed her character a lot better because from the very get-go, she said that she wasn't really great with kids, but it's easy money. And then she was put in a situation where she needed to put herself in harm's way to protect a kid. Kids that like she doesn't even like. She claims she doesn't even like kids, and she literally like tried to save this kid, putting her own life in danger, and she consistently does that. What I don't love is like the trope of like the mean girl, aka the Liz character with blue hair, just being very like rough and stoic and rude just because she's edgy. I feel like you can be edgy and not be a bitch. but you didn't hear it from me. Once again, it's another trope stereotype that I'm not the biggest fan of, but I know some other people love. So basically, the part that I just got to, she got to meet all of the other babysitters, which surprisingly to her are all of the misfits that are like in her grade. She called them the misfits. She's like, oh crap, I made this babysitting job for myself to make money so I could go to this camp, and now I'm just like one of these babysitter misfits. So she already is learning, like, hey, maybe don't judge people just by the way that it is on the outside, and maybe you can think about yourself a little less. So already great improvements with the main character, very fast paced, good improvements. And I am running out of time on my phone, apparently. Didn't know that was a thing. Anyway, I'm a third of the way through. I will get back to you when I am halfway. All right, we've made it to halfway through this bad boy. I am starting to like it a little bit more. It's very cute, very endearing. I am enjoying the main character a little bit more. She's becoming a little bit more witty and funny rather than like goofy and silly in the very beginning, or maybe I'm just kind of getting used to her voice. I also do like what Joe has done with the character Victor. We no longer have to give him a hard time about Victor. I think that the reason why I was initially a little bit put off of the way that Victor was represented was because he was only speaking Spanish. And this is not me saying that, you know, people shouldn't speak their first or their native language, but I just thought that it was a little bit stereotypical of him to write that, so I was hoping that Victor wouldn't be seen as too stereotypical. And I think that that's a problem that I had with a lot of the characters initially in the beginning. You've got the weird quirky girl, classic middle school trope. You've got the first generation immigrant child that only speaks Spanish. You got the blue-haired girl that's really mean to everybody. So I was a little bit put off by that initially, but I think that he intentionally set them up to be stereotypical so that he could break those stereotypes later on. So the gal who's really quirky ends up being the person who's really like taking charge and doing all sorts of stuff that she never thought that she could do. We've got Victor. We've only really been introduced to his character just slightly by the time that we got halfway through, but he is very helpful, and it was fun to see something that was a little bit more realistic with bilingual kids, is him bouncing back and forth from English to Spanish, kind of intermixing the two. I love it when people do that. I wish that I could do that. Because I can only speak English, I am hoping that I will learn other languages in the future. I have shown somewhat of an interest of learning, you know, Spanish, French, Japanese, all of that kind of stuff. Mainly Japanese so that my husband can stop talking to his friends in Japanese and hide secrets from me. And mainly it's always like things that he's getting me for my birthday, or like surprises he's gonna have over the holidays and stuff. Nothing too crazy. And I think I do appreciate the character Liz a lot more. I think that he did put us in a direction where we were supposed to judge her a little too early, but actually she is a really spectacular character and really does have a heart underneath all of that hard, rough exterior. Why is it that every single blue-haired girl like has the worst trauma? Like I've noticed that. I think the only complaint that I have about the book so far is that the plot is going a little slow. I figured that by the time I was halfway through, not only would I understand a lot about the story, but we also would have made good headway. And at this point, the only things that they have done so far as like the monster hunting goes, is that there's this like hobgoblin that was a part of the group that kidnapped the kid earlier on. And they did capture him, but then he like escaped again, and he's like escaped like 2 or 3 times, and they just keep on trying to chase after this same hobgoblin. And we were just recently introduced to a new monster, but they're still kind of in the same direction of, well, we need to catch this specific goblin so that he can tell us where the kid is. And I feel like that ship just like should have sailed a little while ago, a few chapters ago, but it is picking up a little bit more, so hopefully because I am hitting the halfway point, I'll be able to see the story pick up a little bit. But so far it's super cute. I like it. Obviously it's not meant for my age group, but you know, it's a cute concept and idea. I think that portion of it is also very clever. All right, well, I am going to try and read through this quickly since I am almost done with it, and I will catch up with you guys then. Hey everybody, I am here with the final review for A Babysitter's Guide to Monster Hunting. I do appreciate the character Liz a lot more, and I feel bad for making assumptions about her. I think that this book does a really good job of painting very hard set stereotypes and then breaking those stereotypes, or at the very least understanding why those stereotypes are the way that they are. So I thought that that was kind of a nice anecdote. I will admit that I think that I like Veronica a lot more than the main character for a while, but she grew on me. I think that the main character grew on me. I think that she also did a lot of different things that kind of proved that she was growing and learning as a person, even though this whole entire story happens in one night. I think that the ending was really sweet and very cute. It kind of gave me Hocus Pocus vibes, which I really enjoyed. So I think that this is a really good cozy read for anyone who is like at the beginning of high school or like just ending middle school. I realized at the end of the book that it actually is a series. Like there was a sequel inside of there, and they actually segued the sequel pretty well while also maintaining some sort of like resolution for the end of the book. So I think that was pretty good. I don't think I am interested in reading the next one. I just am not sure if I would be able to keep up with that story and take it seriously, just because it is not necessarily meant for people that are within my age range. But overall, I thought it was a pretty cute book. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It was super cute, very endearing, not necessarily something that I thought would be my vibe, but I ended up enjoying it. I do have to say though, my gosh, I just love Veronica. I wanna be Veronica. Veronica's so freaking cool. And to be honest, I kind of wanted it to be in Veronica's point of view for a while. Like the first introduction to Veronica was actually in the prologue, and I really loved the way that they illustrated that first, I guess you could call first chapter. I think that the book itself was a pretty clever idea, going off of a lot of fables and running with a different concept of what you could do as far as plot goes. I am really excited to watch this Netflix special. I have heard that it's very fun and very cute. I'm not sure if they're planning on making a sequel, like the books have been a sequel, but I'm excited to just have something that's a little bit more like carefree, but also still spooky. I feel like a lot of the books that I have been reading have taken me to some dark places that I don't necessarily venture to all the time. I'm not known to reading horror. It's a new avenue for me. But I really liked this as like a little break, like just kind of like a cutesy little Halloween story. Just a bunch of hocus pocus, if you will. And thank you guys so much for watching. Sayonara, you guys, and I will see you next time.